honor for us. A blue-eyed Colombian gallerist has brought you here to have in an independent space, to have a solo exhibition. So would you tell us how did it all begin, Sydney, please?
Yeah, sure. So we decided to put together a show actually during the height of COVID, the outbreak, and we were trying to select works that would allow people to understand a collective experience that was happening globally in the world. And as Marina's spanning career in performance relies heavily on the public, there are a lot of moments in her photographic works and video works where you could see opportunities for the public to connect with her and experiences that she was going through. So we tried to focus on artworks that allowed for different moments of different emotions that people were experiencing, varying from isolation to hopefulness, to happiness, ecstasy, suffering. And so the artworks in this show were selected so people could find private opportunities to experience those moments, which is so often possible in Marina's work.
Marina, how was your approach to a frame?
Love story. No, Efrain, I worked for a long time with Efrain. We started with La Fabrica, and at that time he was very young and very dynamic. He still stayed less young but very dynamic. And working with him is wonderful because he really put together the concept, the museums, the curators. And I mean, this is really not big exhibition, but we have huge presence of so many people here. And this all thanks to him. And also he gave the chance to young curators like Sydney to create this show, which is very important. And I love working with young curators. I like also to see different point of view on my work, not from my own generation, and really worked because this is from the oldest piece I made here in early 70s to the latest piece I made in this year, the 7 Deaths. So you see in a kind of short, almost small perspective of everything together. And Efrain always have different concepts. Now the idea of changing spaces and adapted to the different concepts of the artist is actually very revolutionary because you're not stuck with one place, with one type of architecture. You're just kind of moving as the work and concept is moving. But that's very innovative, and that's his idea. So he's a kind of a gallerist, permanent, modern nomad, and I see myself very nomadic as an artist, so we match perfectly.
It's true, and that reminds me also of many years ago, a conversation you had with your gallerist Sean Kelly about, because he didn't have he quit his job, so he didn't have a place to offer, like a space itself, and you said to him, I want a gallerist with no gallery. So it's true that this independent space has maybe some special meaning in that way.
But I'm very used with the idea of independent space because when I started my performances, which is like 50 years ago, we didn't have any space. Galleries didn't want to show us. The museums was afraid of us. So we were showing in alternative spaces, garages, friends' houses, lofts, that kind of spaces. So the public was 3 people, 10 people, 20, was like, oh my God, big public. But this was really very, underground and avant-garde. This is how the good ideas start in this way. So, later on being accepted by the galleries and museums takes long time.
Let's go back to the very beginning. Would you tell us what were your dreams as a girl?
What was my dream as a girl?
When you were your first dreams that you remember.
What do you mean, my girl? How old do you want me to tell you?
I don't know how old your memories are. Did you expect, of course, like maybe not coming, you didn't maybe expect your career, but I think you've always been like very arty from the very beginning.
I don't know. I only remember as a girl that I absolutely didn't want to play with the teddy bears or dolls or anything with objects. And I remember people giving me presents and I would give them away immediately. I didn't like objects. I didn't like anything which is kind of physical. I play with the shadows, and I play with the invisible beings, and I remember my favorite world was to get under the blanket and then have a little bit opening with the shadow come from the window, and then I would imagine this invisible world. It was always about invisible. It was never really about material.
That's interesting because Sydney told me about the work that you're doing in your studio with the archive, and you're finding objects from your performances, your works that are really significant. Would you tell us about more of this archive work that you're going through?
Yeah, well, Marina saved everything throughout her whole life. So it's pretty remarkable because we're going through this massive amount of material and sort of having a deeper understanding as to ephemera related to performances, and also just things that she collected that were showcasing different performance artists of the time, different people who inspired her, different places she had traveled. So it's very interesting to work through and understand what is significant as related to performances. Like, for example, we have a piece of paper used in Rhythm 10 where Marina, kind of marks through her fingers, and it's a bloody piece of paper that basically indicates documentation of the performance happening, and that's something that we have in our archive. So, I mean, I don't know what your experience is kind of going through these things, but...
I come from the communist background. My mother was the director of Museum of Art and Revolution. They collect everything. They never throw anything, and there was all idea of documentation that's very important. So, and also about the order and discipline. So somehow I kind of inherited all the discipline, willpower, and the classification of everything. So every letter that ever sent to me doesn't mean that I answer, but I collect. And I didn't know. I always think that objects have some kind of energy, and I have them. I didn't use them, but I have them. So the collection was very much to do with probably coming from that kind of background, because every piece of paper, the object could have purpose later on. And then actually I made the artwork called Private Archaeology, which consists of four or five the drawers that you can open. Actually is exposed to the public, and you can open their vitrines with the glass, and they are actually the part of my collection that actually use for total inspiration. There is pieces of cuts of the different books I like, or there is one with the milk and salt and my own blood. There is the Tibetan pills for healing. There is lots of interesting things. So when you open these drawers, you actually go through kind of private archaeology and like inspirational kind of treasure for the public to see the work. It's very nomadic. All the tickets I ever traveled and stuff like that.
And through these worldwide travel that you've done in all your 50 years of career, I'm sure some projects have seemed maybe at the beginning a little bit like utopian. Like, is this really going to happen? Because a lot of your projects, they have been like a process of years and years until they really come true. How do you live this process, which is pretty long?
I don't know. To me, I need lots of time. If I make performance, I need sometimes 1 year of preparation or very long time. The idea really actually talks to me. The moment I get the idea, if I like the idea, I immediately dismiss because it's too easy. But if I really get afraid and I'm really kind of in panic with this idea and kind of stick in my stomach for a long, long time, and I get obsessed and I wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh my God, I have to do this. Then this is the kind of idea I want to do. But the longest project I have in mind that I ever did is the one with you have the video installation, 7 Deaths. That thing with Carlos and me and the broken heart and all of it, it's actually took more than 30 years. 30 years that this actually project, it's here now. And this was a long, long time. Because I didn't, it's not just important to have idea, but you have to have right public, right time, and the right instruments to show something. And also you have to know what kind of media actually express this idea the best. Sometimes it's just photographs, sometimes it's objects, sometimes it's direct, the performance, sometimes it's video installation. It takes a long time, and when all these elements come together, and then you feel it's right, then you do it. And this, I think now was the right time.
Let's bring up this video installation, the video which is like cinema actually. Let's bring it up. I know we all know this relation-obsession maybe that you have with Maria Callas, but is it really now the right time to die 7 times? Because you really die 7 times in this
When is the right time to die anyway? There is never right time to die.
How was dying 7 times?
7, yeah. But, okay, so everything starts like this. 14 years old, I'm in the kitchen of my grandmother, and we have old bakelit radio. This is like, the grandmother loved to listen to the radio. She put the program, always the news, the bad news, the good news, then there comes the folk music, then there comes classic music, whatever. And I'm sitting having breakfast, and in one moment came this voice of the woman on the radio, and I stand up in the middle of the kitchen, I start crying uncontrollably, crying. I have no idea why. Something in the voice, vibration of the sound, it makes me so melancholic and sad. And I was crying. And then on the end of the song, they told me, oh, but this, the speaker on the radio said, oh, this is Maria Callas, blah, blah, blah. I never heard her name before. So I really got obsessed by this voice. And I actually, by the charisma of the voice. And then since many, many years, I was following her life and, thinking about her and listening to the music. I use this on my video, her music. And then to the end that I really want to do something more. And finally, she died from broken heart. And I almost died from broken heart myself. And this was the connection. Because my work saved me. And her work didn't save her. And then I was thinking, oh my God, but in every opera, the woman died from broken heart. It's incredible. The women are just dying in all of these operas. The suffocation, the knifing, the jump, the harakiri, the tuberculosis, broken heart, madness, whatever you want. And then I was thinking, why don't you just show these endings? And then I make real opera. And if somebody told me 10 years ago, that even 15 years ago, that this work, that idea will come into opera context, I think you're crazy. I mean, I hated opera. It was such an old-fashioned media. And who like opera these days? 5 hours. So, but then I understood, yeah, but I really have to address this very old-fashioned media and make something different and kind of, deconstruct it and make something new out of it. And then I really got this idea. And the actually opera, the director, Nicole Bachelor, I was in Sweden, and he said, I'd like to talk to you about the project. And he came to talk to me about the project because they work lots with artists with opera at that time. If I will do something with the Barba Blue, And I look at him and say, I don't give a shit about Barba Blue, but I have a project for you. And I told him about 7 Deaths and opera. And he said, oh my God, this is incredible. I'm just going to retire in 2 years. And this could be my greatest goodbye. In one evening, 7 opera. This is like perfect retrospective. And then we worked for 2 years. And during the entire COVID, I was actually rehearsing in Munich. So it was a very productive time for me. And then I was so afraid because you risk so much as artists who never done opera. I done opera here with Bob Wilson, but he was director. But here I'm director and I'm playing also. It was not easy at all. And then also to actually be afraid it would be total failure. But the thing about art is very important not to be afraid of failure. If you risk something and you've never been in this territory, failure is possible. So otherwise you never go anywhere. So I did kind of jump into unknown and came to other side. And then now this work have 2 actual parts. One is the video that you see it as installation, and another one is opera. And I'm going to perform in March in Barcelona Opera House. I don't know exactly the date. Julian, who's
March 2023.
Next year. But which date? Do you remember?
No.
Okay, we don't remember. So in Barcelona it's going to be shown. Because the director of Barcelona came to see Paris Opera, because we opened opera season in Opera Garnier in Paris this year. And he came to my dressing room and he said only one sentence, I want it. So you can have it. It was that.
By using art as an exercise of freedom as well, you've pushed your limits to the very edge, sometimes to the very edge of what it's fear, what it's real, what it's maybe, like very limited moments in your life. Where would you place vulnerability in this process?
Whatever do.
Where would you place vulnerability, fragility in the process of making art? Vulnerability?
Vulnerability. I'm going to quote Maria Callas for that.
Oh, please.
She said a really wonderful thing. She said, when I'm performing, I have to make sure that one part of the brain is in complete control, another part of the brain loose and free. And if you can actually kind of balance these two, then you have great performance. And I think it's very important to show vulnerability to the public, because this is the way you connect with them. You can't, if you just show the strengths, it's not right. All of us are vulnerable and strong at the same time. So you have to balance this both.
Sydney, talking about the public, it's true that when somebody goes to a Abramovic show, you expect certain emotions to come up and maybe stick up in your visit. What did you expect when you curated the whole exhibition to get the public emotions and to get the public response?
I think that we've been talking a lot about how Marina is just constantly performing, like as a performance artist, even in photographs and even in video mediums. Like there's an element of performance art there, and how performance art is just reliant on this relationship of the public responding and being able to find an opening to have a response of vulnerability or strength. So I think that that's the hope that I have in encountering her work anywhere as a member of the public myself, is being able to find those same experiences that she's having to make the work, having access to it as a member of the participating public. I think that's kind of what I hope is possible here. And I think the accompaniment of having 7 deaths, the video work as well, it shows kind of a diversity to the type of work that we have with, the photography being something that you access in one way and you kind of can spend time walking around or standing up looking at, and then being invited to sit in a more theatrical experience where you sit down and you really watch something that's super captivating and about an hour long and kind of takes you. So I really appreciate that we have both of those experiences here.
Maybe I want to say something as we are sitting already about photographs. Okay, after artist is present, which was hell of the difficult piece to do, 3 months, 8 hours a day sitting, and 10 hours during the weekend. After that, I wanted to do something totally different. I need some kind of freedom and connection to nature. So I went to south of Italy and I made a series of the work called Back to Simplicity. And this piece is out of that. I actually went to the huge the countryside area where they keep the sheep and lambs. This lamb was just born, and you still see the embolic cord sticking out his stomach. And I felt back to simplicity. Let's hold this lamb. Let's enjoy life. So this was the piece of the complete euphoria. So that's the one. So here we have a completely different mood. This is another period of my life, which I actually call this entire period of work with eyes closed. You can see happiness, because happiness comes from inside of you and not from outside of you. Because happiness, if you come from outside of you, you depend from the person who gives you happiness. The moment the person is gone, you are unhappy. But if happiness comes from inside, you stay with that. So I had these 3 images, which are actually called very big emptiness. This is a big emptiness. Then little smaller emptiness and very little emptiness. 3 emptiness. This is, metaphorical. Then in Brazil, you know, I need to have some kind of freedom. So I went to this Amazon area and I swim in this pond I found. And this is like also looks, the way how we position the body is also the idea of kind of floating angel in the air and is up in a different way. This piece, I mean, early, I'm here 23, 24, I don't remember. So this is very nostalgic piece of me, reflection to dying already at that time, where I actually take these images of the photographer of the cemetery. And I'm very close to the camera, and then I'm going far and far, far, and the last image I disappear. It's about living and dying. You know, you're there and then you're not there anymore. And then, very, very unhappy time of my life, this is this little portrait with the Jesus. Actually, it was one of the really the lowest part of my life at that time, which I was broken heart. I went to this is in Brasilia, again, middle of Brazil. I went to the little village, and I found in this village they're selling these little Jesuses. But this great thing about this Jesus is smiling, and it's a kind of happy colors. It's not suffering Jesus, it's a happy Jesus. And I actually bought him in the pack in the newspaper. And I just went and opened this Jesus from newspaper and took this image. And this is an image really like record really one state of the, you know, loneliness, unhappiness, but also there is a hope. And then this one, it's a kind of big story. It's a part of the much bigger series, which called The Kitchen, in the cooking piece, which I actually dedicate entire work to Santa Teresa d'Avila, and actually with Ephraim we show this work, and this is very important work in my opus. I went to the north in Asturias, in the north of this country, and I found this huge Carthusian monastery that was actually the nuns was feeding the children, I think 4,000 orphan children at that time. And there was a kitchen totally abandoned that it was amazing. There was everything was there, all these images with the pots and this, so the image there on this photo, I didn't arrange this for photograph. I just actually made the old kitchen series there. I made the levitation of Santa Teresa d'Avila, holding the milk, you know, cooking, and all is related to this interesting inspiration for me, reading diaries of Santa Teresa d'Avila, that she was, in her diary, she was levitating and seen by lots of witnesses in the church all day long, because she was this loving with Jesus. And then, at the end of the day, she writes in her diary that she's very hungry and she absolutely wants to go home and make her soup. And totally understandable. So she goes home to make the soup, and she starts cooking this soup. And in the middle of the cooking, divine force lifts her up, because she can't control divine force. This is out of her control. And now she's up there, completely mad, because divine force is holding her up and soup is burning down, and she can't finish the soup. To me, that idea that you can be angry with divine force is incredible. So I made the whole series, and this is the beginning, that she's cooking the soup. You know, I just kind of imagine. There, this other piece with the blind is just fine. Is a part of my exercises called Abramovic method. That actually, when you're blindfolded, you can see more, because you have to like a blind man really kind of how you can say be more intuitive. What's happening behind you, what's happening around you, that you can actually see around yourself. So just one image of that. And then these two images there, there's really lots of, this is new work, the part of my work I'm doing here in Artefactum, because Artefactum is very important to me, and I've been in many, many years connected to Adam Löwe, and because he's not just inventor, he's scientist and inventor. And I told him, I wanted to invent different ways of seeing photography, and I wanted to
have something big and pure.
I don't know. And I wanted to that you invent for me material who have how you can say, who can be material and immaterial at the same time, who contain life and death at the same time. So he invents something to do with a new machine to me to make pieces from alabaster, but this piece is a Korean. And which is interesting, I actually encourage you, but don't get shocked. Please touch it with your hands, because it's negative and positive at the same time, and it's not photograph, but it's not relief either. It's something different. And Korean is something that you use in your kitchens, so it's a very simple material that never been used in that way. And I like this idea of positive, negative. And in this work, the portrait with octopus, they brought me a really live octopus, by the way, who can be without air for 30 seconds, and we have to put around my back for 30 seconds that he's still alive, and he's get a touch. It's like almost strangulation moment. I really love this image. So that's the portrait with octopus. And then we have 7 deaths. 7 deaths it's 1 hour and 7 minutes, and it's not so long, because dying is much shorter. So that's all about my show.
Well, after these,
So I think any question we should maybe ask.
Yeah,
people.
sure.
Yeah.
I think after these this moment that we were in this very powerful environment with so many portraits that you have experienced in so many important moments of your life, I would like to ask one last question, which is, apart from yourself, who do you feel has been always supporting your work during your career?
Very interesting. There's not one person. My mother wanted to put me in mental hospital. My father didn't care what I'm doing. My brother thinks it's disgusting. I mean, nobody. I have to support myself. And then comes and goes, There are people who support and then they don't. But it's not somebody. I was not lucky to have one person from the beginning of my career to support my work. It's lots of loneliness. And lots of believing that what you're doing is right, no matter what. No, I can't point to one person in my life that support. I have people around me. Like now, look at now. I have Giuliano, who is the director of the foundation, and then I have she's how old are you now? She's 29. Already 29. I was thinking it was younger. 20. But anyway, who really, get interested in my work and support. This is I think the young generation is my supporters. Very young generation. Every time I give a talk, I ask who is the youngest, and the youngest is sometimes even 12, 13 years old people. And then 17, everything between 12 to 35. And then I ask who is the oldest, and never over 55.
Wow.
My generation don't exist around me.
Well, I hope you feel now supported. And
who is the oldest here?
Oldest here?
Nobody say age here. Who is the youngest?
Oh, that's a little girl, Maria there.
Huh?
She's 9.
How old are you? 9. Okay, your record for me. I didn't have 9 yet. That's really... And old? Who is the old? We don't know. People don't like to say the age. Anyway, but is anybody over 60 here? No. This is how I prove my point.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
But can we ask any questions?
Sure.
Please, any question you want to ask?
Yeah, we can help.
Let's do 3 questions and then that's it. Then look the movie, please.
Yes.
Si tenéis preguntas, os podéis hacer en español y las traducimos. Y si os podéis en...
That's a long question. Well, I didn't understand.
If you could imagine when you began that you will become a part of the art establishment. You began as a waitress, you could imagine.
No, I didn't imagine. I could not imagine any of this because if I was reading criticism in the 70s when I start my work, I would never get out of home. Everything was so terrible. This kind of art form was not acceptable for many years. And you just have to go on. That's all what you have to do. It was not easy. And the photography or video was also part of the mainstream art, but much earlier that was accepted in the museums and the galleries, but not performance. And it's very interesting to see that every time economical crisis in the world, the performance go up, And every time, the world, the economy is okay, then art become commodity and the prices rise up and performance go down. It's a kind of always in this kind of balance, because performance is such a difficult art form. It's a time-based art and it's direct contact with audience, It demands everything from you to do so. Yeah.
¿Alguien más? ¿Alguna pregunta?
The first question with the Real Academy, yes, I'm going to do performance Real Academy, and I'm thinking and preparing, and I could never tell you what's going to be because I am totally superstitious, and I would jinx it, I don't tell. And the second one, I create something called Abramovic method, which is actually for a long, long time. You have Grotowski method, you have Stanislavski. I think Abramovic method is time now. And I really came out of this very long experience how to prepare body and mind to do your own work. But it doesn't mean to be performance work. You can be teacher in the school, you can be farmer, you can be politician, you can be, the worker in the factory. There's so much to learn, how your mind work, how your body work. And then we are doing this preparation in form of Abramovic method. I just actually issued the cards. They are like a playful cards, but at the same time they're instructions. And you can pick up any of these cards and do, one of these instructions. In the COVID time, I propose people to go and hug the tree. Choose the tree you like, hug the tree, and complain to the tree minimum 15 minutes. It's so amazing, really work. People hug the tree, they cry, they complain, they feel better. And then I have hundreds of exercises like this. What if you're angry? What you do with your anger? What you do if you're impatient? They're very simple exercises which I learned by being in many different cultures and learning from ancient cultures, and really good works. Counting rice is something that I invent, how to count rice. But this is a long story. You get the cards and play with them and see how Abramovic method works.
We will.
This is 3 questions.
That's 3 questions.
This was 3 questions.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Marina and Sydney, for having this conversation in front of the press.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you really have time, please look the video. I'm very
Gracias
happy
por
to see.
venir y lo que os queremos adelantar también es que